Good morning, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for the 22nd of October 2013 in the Atlantic Basin. Yes, we have Tropical Storm Lorenzo out here, almost quite literally in the middle of the open central Atlantic here, almost equidistance from any land mass, well, the exception of Bermuda, but all the big land masses, it's just about as far away from all of them. Equally so, just about anyway. Kind of like Kansas is in the middle of the United States. Does that make sense? This is smack square in the middle of the Atlantic, 40-mile-per-hour winds and 1,008 millibar pressure. As you can see, Lorenzo going to stay well out to sea here over the open Atlantic. This is the east coast of the United States, so no worries. It is not going to be heading in the direction of land. Looking at the satellite picture of the Atlantic Basin this early morning, we can see there it is, Lorenzo, a little bit of wind shear going across the top of it. That's why it has that sort of comet look to it. You ever see a picture of a comet, and you've got the coma in the head of the comet, and the tail swings back away from it as the energy from the sun comes along and pushes it back? Well, in this case, it's the energy from the upper level winds pushing back these clouds, creating some wind shear over the system. Otherwise, it would probably go on to become a hurricane in a fairly favorable environment if it weren't for these stronger upper level winds. Over the southeast United States, you can see a pretty good cold front coming through. Going to bring some of the chilliest weather we've seen since the end of last winter to a good deal of the southeast, with the exception of the southern peninsula of Florida. Your air will dry out, but it won't be quite as cool, obviously, as what's going to be taking place and coming in farther to the north. Meanwhile, in the eastern Pacific, Hurricane Raymond hanging around a little bit too close for comfort here off the coast of Mexico. A little bit of an annoying feature, I'm sure. Heavy rain continues to plague the area here along the Mexican coastline. Luckily, two things about this. First, Raymond will eventually move on off to the west and just south of due west with time. And also, Raymond is a small hurricane, so its effects are limited to a fairly small geographic area, as you can see here, but still pretty good cloud cover and some heavy rain falling underneath those clouds over parts of Mexico. But this will eventually start turning back off to the west-southwest here. You can see some pretty good high-level clouds being pulled off of that system and across the Gulf of Mexico, portions of Texas, and even into the southeast U.S., sort of a little bit of a tropical connection, if you will, tapping into this deep moisture out here. Nothing else developing in the eastern Pacific anywhere out here, so once Raymond finally moves off to the west, you folks along the Mexican coastline don't have any other issues to be concerned with. Out in the western Pacific, things pretty active. We have Typhoon Francisco and Typhoon Lequima, and then other systems trying to develop in the southern hemisphere first. Pretty good news here with Typhoon Francisco. Let's widen out the track map shot here. You remember yesterday it was looking like it could come up and cross west of the Tokyo area, Tokyo Bay. Well, now this is quite a dramatic shift, coming up and turning sharply off to the northeast with time, well away from the Japanese coastline. So they'll certainly have some rain. If we look at a satellite picture, you'll see also that the typhoon not quite as well organized, as it's getting a little bit of wind shear, upper level winds impacting it. It still will bring some inclement weather, but the forecast track taking it south and east of Tokyo, so that's good news. Then we have this other typhoon to the south and east here, Lequima, I think that's how you say it. A very powerful typhoon, smaller in size than Francisco. This one, let's take a look at the track map for this over the next several days. Maybe a threat down the road. Let's widen out the map and see what the future holds for this particular system. Nope, doesn't look like it will get close enough to Japan to warrant much concern. Yet, it is forecast right there to be another super typhoon reaching Category 5 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, like a couple others have in recent times here. So the typhoons keep on coming strong and plentiful in the western Pacific. Well, that is it for me for today. There's luckily, nothing else going on in the Atlantic Basin. Lorenzo going to stay out there. We will be watching the Western Caribbean Sea as a whole towards the end of the month, into the first part of November, as it does look like a possible favorable MJO pulse, that enhanced upward motion period of time coming through. And maybe after Halloween we'll see something in the first week of November, and then that'll do it. If nothing forms then, we're about 95% of the way there, and we should get through the season without any major calamities in the United States or elsewhere, despite a couple of hurricanes forming, one of them going into Mexico earlier this year with a lot of flooding rain. I think all things considered, it's been a pretty darn good season considering the impacts we could have had. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com and, of course, Hurricane Pro HD. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you some more tomorrow.